Welcome to the Padres Hot Tub, everybody. Craig Elsten, Chris Reed, Raphie Cantor, and from Fangraphs roster resource, the great Jason R.R. Martinez is back on the show. Jason, welcome back, my friend. How are you?
I'm great. Happy to be here. Starting to be a once a year thing with you guys. I think this is my third appearance. So if you guys don't invite me one year, I'm gonna be sad. Just so you know. I like talking with you guys, Raphie and Chris and Craig. Man, I was looking forward to it.
Well, we need to start inviting you twice a year in that case, so that it's not just an
Yes.
annual tradition. I appreciate it. We got Jason R.R. Martinez, or JRRM, the more prolific of the RR initials. GRRM never gets anything done. JRRM updates that site every
Definitely
minute.
the hardest working.
Yeah. Well, we are here, and for the regular listeners and viewers of the show, you know what our tradition is counting down to opening day. We've got 3 podcasts in succession that try to set the low bar, the high bar, and then eventually where we actually think the Padres might land in the 2026 season. So this is the Pessimism podcast. It's worst case scenarios. It's what if everything goes wrong. It's everything shot to hell. It's 6-7. That's pretty much what this podcast is. Next week, best case scenarios, rainbows and sunlight and unicorns and everything going right for San Diego. So you can look forward to that. But today, we're going to start with the news of the day, and then we're going to move into the pessimism, where we'll each give our thoughts on how it could go wrong, and then we'll give at the end of the show what we think the low bar is, like the worst it could go for San Diego in 2026. But first, Jason, let's just catch up. What's life going on in roster resource? What's happening?
Same old for the most part. We've added some new stuff, which I think you guys would like a lot, because you do, especially in the offseason, you get into contracts and stuff like that, and you dig really deep. And there's a couple different sites online that have payroll information, and then people are always confused, like, why does this site say this, and this? And so the newest feature we added there is an individual player, like a notepad. So the thing that's confusing is like a player will sign a big contract and get the signing bonus. And so from the team perspective, a team payroll perspective, we got to spread that out evenly over the years. And so that's what you're looking at when you're looking at all the players together. You're looking at the salary for that year and then the signing bonus as well. And so now you can look at this little notepad. There's info column. You click on the notepad, and then you can see what's the base salary, if there's incentives. So like if you were to click on, let's see, no, Xander, who has incentives on the Padres? I'm sure. Let's see, like Pavetta.
I have it pulled up, actually, Jason. I have Griffin Canning, because you put a post on Blue Sky about this.
Yeah.
And I immediately checked it out and thought it was awesome. So, like, for instance, Griffin Canning, you have him at 1 year, $2.5 million with the option. And then in available incentives, you lay out exactly the incentives and the optionality.
Yes, I was just looking at the Nick Pivetta one because I was curious. I was trying to remember, because Nick Pivetta just got pushed back in a worst case scenario. This is some kind of injury year for Nick Pivetta, right? So like what is that opt out? What is that year? Because we've always been like, 2 years and he's gone. Well, it's $14 million next year. If everything went wrong, he'd make $14 million to rehab. So that's really, really cool and useful for dorks like us.
Yeah. And then like trade deadline, of course, you start looking at guys who might be traded, and then that signing bonus doesn't matter when you're talking about an individual player. So whatever it shows on the team page, you have to click on that individual and go, okay, this is what an acquiring team might owe this player here, not the signing bonus. So things like that are always helpful. Another thing, and I was going to bring this up later, but there's a new feature that I'm going to try to dig in as much as possible, and it was kind of my idea. One of my colleagues at Fangraphs, Ben Clemens, I saw him we were at winter meetings and just hanging out, and he's working on this thing, and he's talking about this thing called vibe coding. I don't know how to code, and he doesn't know how to code, but there's this thing called vibe coding, I guess, where you just tell the AI what you want to do, and it kind of creates the thing for you. And so he was kind of talking about this idea he had, and of course, I'm always fascinated with the Padres at Petco Park, and how, talk about, how I want to start the pessimism segment. Of course, I'm going to talk about my view on Petco Park, which is basically, I think the team that plays at Petco Park is they are going to have it harder than other teams in certain ways. And so this feature that I was thinking of is he's talking about streaks. He's talking about hot streaks, and he wants to show like which players were on a hot streak. And I'm like, yeah, I want to see this over 162 games, and I want to be able to identify like, let's find the team slump, and let's see if there was one, let's see if there's a part of the schedule where like one guy was carrying the team, or like, yeah, what happened when like four guys were hot at once. And so he whipped up this thing, and it's in the off season it's kind of cool to look back at, but it's going to be really cool once the season's going on. So like on the homepage there is on the right hand side, scroll down just a little bit, and there's a purple. It says Fangraphs Lab. It's like a little purple background. And there's a couple features in there, and then there's the one called Hot Streak, and that's the one once. So you can click on any team. I think you can go back like 20 years. You can change the date range, change the stats a little bit. But basically, what I want to see is, okay, what happened over this last 10 days or month, and really get into like, okay, how did this offense survive when it seemed like everybody was terrible, and we got one guy, and so like I don't know, it's a lot right now, but you can kind of tell it has that roster resource vibe, which works for me visually, for me, just why it looks like this. I can't look at graphs and stuff like that. It just doesn't make any sense. But this kind of stuff does. So we're trying to get it to the point where if I'm looking at it throughout the season, I go like, okay, what is this team slump look like on paper? Because team slump is a big theme for the Padres. It's, like I said, any team that plays at Petco Park, that team slump is slumpier than a normal team.
Extra slump.
Extra slump.
Cursed of slump.
Well, incredible stuff. Everyone should check it out. And if you are somebody who regularly uses Fangraphs, I'll just go ahead and tack on it. It doesn't hurt to support those guys and kick a few bucks a month their way to help keep the company thriving and help allow them to hire people like Jason and keep people like Jason on the payroll and keep this incredible resource for baseball fans thriving and growing and new innovations year by year. So please, if you can, support Fangraphs as well. Now, guys, in terms of news, I mean, we could talk about the moon launch day. I think that was Friday at Peoria Sports Complex. Did you see that, where the wind was blowing like 20 miles an hour straight out to center field? And they had 27 runs, and Jackson Merrill literally almost hit it over the batter's eye at the sports complex.
Drake Cronenworth hit an opposite field home run, which he famously never does.
No, he didn't, guys.
Yes, he did.
That's not what happened.
It was an illusion.
Okay.
There's going to be no proof of it in the future when all of this is going on.
Like the actual moon landing.
Faked like the actual moon landing.
Yeah, there it is. There it is.
I don't believe he's never hit one in all. They said that was in his entire career, or just the majors that he's never
entire
hit?
Career. Oh, majors, Major League.
Okay,
MLB,
AAA probably. I mean, yeah, maybe he's going to have a lot of at-bats in spring training, but yeah, he hit a fly ball in Peoria to left field. It's not that hard. I mean,
well, I mean, listen, it's tremendously hard. Just ask Ron Washington, sitting right over here.
Yeah. I couldn't do it.
Yeah, but that was a very exciting day. When I was watching it, I was reminded of that time down at Estadio Alfredo Harp Helú when Austin Nola actually hit a homer, and I was like, "Whoa, can that happen?"
Only was that the Nelson Cruz series? That was like his entire production for the whole for the entire season was that series.
That was one of the last bets I sent to my brother-in-law, was Austin Nola to hit a home run. And I made like 20 to 1 on my $10.
Solid work by you.
I mean, like, it was the only time it was ever going to happen. And like, he was that type of guy. A single can be a home run.
It can. Meanwhile, the WBC is going on, and certainly we've seen a lot of Tatis heroics. This morning, I saw his grand slam against, I think it was Israel.
That was awesome.
Manny's been playing well. Toddy's been playing well. Dominican Republic is on a roll. Mason Miller's done his thing so far. I'm not positive how Xander's performed for the Netherlands, but Padres players at the WBC, especially on the DR, doing their thing. Raphie, the question you wrote in our rundown was, is this something that can kind of flip the 2023 script where we felt like the WBC ruined the Padres at the start of the season?
Well, it ruined the Padres, maybe because they didn't have that cohesion of having everyone in camp. But I also think specifically, I think that year the Padres sent the most players to the Dominican delegation because, of course, Juan Soto was still a Padre at that point. And the Dominican Republic famously flopped that year and didn't make it out of pool play. And I like maybe it would. So it's not even like just that they missed spring training and weren't with the team the whole time, but they also went and had this sort of bad vibes experience. And then, of course, Fernando had to begin the season on the suspended list because that was still when he was coming back from his PED suspension. So, like, there were like a lot of things about that that spring training that were weird and kind of queued up just the nonsensical just collapse of that 2023 team. And so I'm just, asking questions, doing my own research, wondering if 2026, if the Dominican team, which, by the way, they look like they are having just an absolute blast. Like every team has a really interesting, unique home run celebration. The Italian team is getting espressos and kiss on the cheeks from Vinny Pasquantino, which I love. Great Britain sadly eliminated, but they're getting the Buckingham Palace soldier, tall cylindrical hats on them. Which is great, and the Dominicans have like a Letterman jacket that they
I love that jacket on so much.
I just the vibes just seem like absolutely through the roof. Manny's contributing. Manny, this is the thing I did note in our Discord. I find it very interesting that Manny Machado is the captain of the Dominican team, which give Manny the C, number one. But number two, he's the captain of the Dominican team. He's been batting fifth most of the time. And you might say...
I thought that wasn't allowed, Raphie. I thought that was politically unavailable according to our Discord.
I know. So again, just asking questions. Is it because Albert Pujols is the manager and Albert Pujols can tell Manny Machado that he hits fifth? And that's sort of the laws under which we are operating? Or is Manny more amenable to a shifted lineup and potentially optimizing in different ways? Again, like I said, just asking questions, and that those are the biggest things I've been following. I mean, like Mason Miller, he's Mason Miller. He throws the ball hard. He comes in for an inning. He does his stuff. But are there any other WBC notes that you guys have been following?
Well, just like poor Craig Stammen, man. Like, he's the surprise winner when we weren't even aware he was a finalist, but we were all kind of dreaming of Albert Pujols as manager. And then, like, we get this glimpse into this alternate reality where he's in the dugout with Tatis and Machado. And, like, I have a lot of faith that Stammen's going to be a really competent guy. But yeah, there's it could end up being really hard on him.
Jason, I'm thinking of almost a Love Island type scenario here where, okay, you've been introduced to your new manager, Craig Stammen. Please spend a week with him. Now, spend a week with the other guy who could have been your manager, but actually he's not. Why don't you take him out for a test spin? Why don't you go for a balloon ride, share some glasses of champagne, maybe a cuddle on a blanket, and see which one you actually love more. I mean, it could go either way.
And there's already video proof and pictures of Tatis and Machado, standing there and with Pujols, and Pujols instructing them and them listening intently. So you know, as soon as if it goes bad with this Padres team, and you know, Stammen's getting all this crap, you know, people are going to start posting those videos and pictures. It should have been Pujols. Look at Tatis and Machado, how much respect they have for these guys. You already see it, but I don't know. It seems like those guys like. It seems like they like Stammen. It's just if things go bad, this is just fingers are going to be pointed at somebody, be an easy target. But that just, yeah, obviously, like the fact that they could have had Albert Pujols, who knows what kind of manager he would have been here. I was kind of on the fence about it. Like I said, my theories of Petco Park are that it's very extreme, and having a Hall of Fame guy coming in here, like maybe not taking that as seriously as he should, would be my main concern there. So I figured you get the guy who's pitched here and he's been around here forever. He's probably thought about it. How would a team that plays here 81 games out of the season, how is that team going to be successful? So I kind of liked. I was okay with the choice. But yeah, Albert Pujols would have been a big deal. Like, it would have been a big marketing thing, you know. I mean, like it wasn't, you know, we weren't gonna have that offseason where we signed the biggest name out there, but it was like Albert Pujols is coming to San Diego. So that'll just, you know, just a little reminder. Now there's proof, especially if they win the whole thing, and you know, Tatis has his moments and Machado has his moments, and you see him celebrating with Albert there.
You know, the bottom line for me is that the World Baseball Classic takes place during spring training. So, you know, these guys are off on their individual quests. They're off on their adventures. And then when they get back, there's this automatic letdown. Because whether they succeeded or failed, they've been this tightly knit band of brothers for 10 days. And then it's like, no, back with your 6-month band of brothers, not your 2-week band of brothers. And of course, the talent level goes down because you're not best on best anymore. You're back to club play. And I mean, it's understandable that there could be at least a tiny mental letdown. Like, oh, whew, well, I can chill now. I'm back to at bats that don't matter. I was playing for my country, you know, 48 hours ago. Let's hope that they've all learned from what 2023 presented, because the Padres got off to a struggling start that year and they truly never recovered until the last 2 weeks of the season.
Well, I really think that, like you said, Craig, that the DR kind of fate in that one led to that. I think it did affect the team, and we also lost Yu Darvish ostensibly. Like he wasn't ready for the season as a result.
All's fair. Anything else on the WBC? Hearing none, we move on.
Just stay healthy. Just Mason Miller, stay healthy. That's it.
Please.
Did you guys see that the Czech team bunted 3-0 with a runner on first and second and nobody out?
Bunted on 3-0.
Bunt 3-0. It like, I know Mike Schultz, an advisor somewhere, but
right?
Does he have like a low key deal with the Czech team that no one knows about?
Did he square the first 3 times? That I need this context. Did the batter square the first 3 times?
No. Maybe he did. I only heard it. I did not see it. Still, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
That's stick-to-itiveness, man. He was told to bunt. He was going to bunt. He just needed a pitch to hit, and he finally got one. Amazing. All right. Here's how the worst-case scenario works. Once again, each of us are going to concoct our own not-so-special narrative. We'll present it as a potential world. It's kind of, you know, world building. Like, here's a world that we can share with you where things go wrong for the San Diego Padres. If you don't like any of these, well, neither do we. So please understand that. And remember that the Optimism Show is coming up next week. Who would like to fall on their sword first and present their dispiriting Padres scenario?
Chris?
I'm the guy I'm the positive one around here. You expect me to lead off?
You want me to go? I'll go. That's fine. I'll go first.
Craig did go last year. So
okay, I'll go first.
Point that out.
Let me propose something. Raphie, you take the pessimism, or Craig, you take the pessimism. I'll lead off the optimism, and then everybody leads one off.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll lead off pessimism then. Please understand.
Think that's natural. I think that's how it should be.
This isn't necessarily what I think will happen. This is the way things could go wrong. All right.
This is Schmevy now. Schmevy's back.
Schmevy walks in.
Schmevy's got the helm.
In honor of the podcast, I did wear, and this is for all the video viewers, the unluckiest shirt in the history of the Padres, the Waldron Cauldron T-shirt. Jason, you can go back, and if you want to find the line of demarcation for the end of Matt Waldron's effective major league career, go find that start and understand that 2 days before that we put this shirt into the world, and immediately thereafter it was straight down the shitter to the point that now he's out with hemorrhoids. So
it's really just been like almost 2 years of just straight downward decline. And pretty soon you will only be able to find the Waldron Cauldron shirts in San Diego area Goodwills. So,
well, not even then, because you'd have to order them first. It's not like we have some back store of them. They're made to order like a sushi recipe. So, you'll basically find it in my closet and Raphie's closet and about 25 or 30 other closets. Okay. With that, here's my worst case scenario. And I'd like to say I drew some immediate inspiration from our recent discussion on how this is going to start. It starts with Pujols poison. As everything you guys thought would be good is bad. As Albert, in addition to giving Tatis little hip tips and dapping up Manny and everything else back in the office when they're enjoying a snifter of tequila after the big win, Albert's telling them how he got screwed over by Preller and lied to by management, and that he was told he had the job. And then the next thing he knew, no one would answer his texts. And he was so confused and so upset. And as the Dominican rolls to the championship in the WBC, while they're soaked in champagne and hugging, Manny and Tatis cross a knowing look and say, he should have been the one. He should have been the one. And instead they come right back, and there's good old cool dad, Craig Stammen, there in his little hoodie. Hey guys, how you doing? I'm back here. I'm your manager now. And they're like, not my manager.
His outerwear game is on point. Don't throw strays at the man's fashion game.
He looks amazing, but he still is just the cool dad. And they're like, we could have had a Hall of Famer, and now we've got this cool dad. And that is not enough for me. So it just gets the team off on the wrong note as our superstars are a little bit crossways because they think the wrong guy is in the dugout from day dot. What happens next? X misses the spot. Xander Bogaerts is an utter failure as leadoff hitter. He goes the first month with an on-base percentage of about 250, but his average is 150. He's drawing a couple walks here and there, but for the most part, he's just a complete tank at the top of the order, and it takes Craig Stammen out of his original plan almost right away. And then, again, Tatis and Machado are like, wait, now you're moving me around? I mean, if Albert told me to, I would. So that's where the offense goes a little bit sideways. I wanted to read for you. I'm going to just crib this because, and by the way, you could almost put this on the Optimism show, because if you know my relationship with beloved national baseball writer Joe Sheehan, you know that Joe is almost always wrong about the San Diego Padres. Like, he's almost always wrong. But back at the end of February, I wrote Joe and I said, the Padres could have a really good lineup this year. I think people are sleeping on that. His response was, I am really not seeing it. Castellanos is done. That's a bad DH platoon. Bogaerts is a weak leadoff guy. The 2-3-4 is fine. I see 100 or less WRC plus. So Joe's right. For the first time ever, Joe's right. That's part of the worst case scenario. I mean, it would absolutely be the worst case scenario if Joe was right about the Padres. And this would be it. So the things that we think are strengths become kind of mediocrities, and the lineup isn't as good as we think. But now we get to the real crux of the matter. Because even if that was the case, the Padres could still have an okay year. But the top three starters are all on the injured list, all at the same time. Joe Musgrove, 3 starts, shut down. Nick Pivetta, who's currently shut down, they just play the classic Padres game. Dead arm phase. Everyone goes through it. Lingering issues. We're working on him on the backfields. He'll be appearing in a Cactus League game shortly. Cactus League season is over. We didn't really get the chance to stretch him out. We're going to leave him in extended spring training. Don't worry. He'll be right there come June. Second opinion is being sought on Nick Pivetta's shoulder. And, the good news is you'll get Pivetta for 27 out of that deal. Michael King is Michael King. He can't stay healthy. He drops off the face. He has a hip or a shoulder or an elbow or a knee or one of the various things that he has. And knees, shoulders, and toes. And he's on the injured list, and Musgrove's on the injured list. And all of a sudden, Randy Vasquez is the ace starter for the San Diego Padres. But 3 of the guys that they brought into spring training for extra depth have all opted out at this point because they didn't make the team. So next up is Kyle Hart, and then it's Matt Waldron. And even Matt Waldron is basically unavailable. The Padres starting rotation falls to hell, which means now you have a mediocre offense with a poor starting staff, which makes their beautiful, gorgeous bullpen nothing more than a shiny English sports car that's always in the shop. It looks beautiful, but it just never gets out on the road. It just never gets a chance to really rev its gears and go. And what happens as a result, gentlemen, is the true worst case scenario for the 2026 Padres, which I submit would be not that they have a poor year, because baseball teams have poor years, but that they have the poor year that specifically prevents them from a pivot. Because if the Padres are a mediocre team, but their top starters are healthy and productive, Michael King is going to be a very attractive trade option. Nick Pivetta would be a very attractive trade option. Laureano could be an attractive trade option. And you could use some strategic pivoting at the deadline to make 2027 and 2028 more palatable. Not in my worst case scenario. In my worst case scenario, all the guys you want to trade are hurt or ineffective. And as a result, you kind of do a 2023. You trade for some totally worthless guy, and try and prop the team up because they're 8 games under 500, but we still think we can. And that becomes the story, the worst case story of the 2026 Padres.
Okay.
Are you going to get to how the new pudding flavor sucks?
I don't even think I need to.
Stuff?
I mean, I think you already, I was saving that for you, but, we could mention it. I'm sure everything at Petco Park is 50 cents more expensive. So
I have
just enjoy that.
In the pudding curators at Petco Park.
Next.
Chris, Jason, me.
Jason, do you want this slot or would you prefer to have the next one?
Oh, what? I'll go whenever. I'm ready.
Fire off.
All right.
Go for it, Jason.
I'm ready. Let's do this. Okay. So, worst case scenario is, because I'm right now I'm thinking of how can it get so bad to where we're out of it by the trade deadline, and that's actually a good thing. Like you said, we don't want to be stuck in the middle, and just kind of like in 23, it's like we were so close to being able to trade Hader, Snell, and a couple other guys, and they didn't because they were just hanging around. And it's hard to see a team with this bullpen. The bullpen is so deep and so good. And it just, the starting rotation, there's only 3 guys that you can trust right now. And that's if you get to the postseason and those guys are healthy, that's what you need. But like, when's the last time they haven't had a starting pitcher miss a lot of time? Like Michael King missed most of last season. Darvish has barely pitched in two years. They've had to deal with this every year, and then somebody like Randy Vasquez steps in and figures it out. It's, the flip side of Petco Park is most guys. I mean, we see guys like JP Sears get lit up there, like maybe like lefties who don't have really good stuff get lit up there, but most other guys can go in and give you 5 solid innings, and that gives you a chance to win, especially if you have a good bullpen. Um, so is I would like it to be really good or really bad, or we're gonna have so many trade chips if you weren't contending, like Morejon, Jason Adam. I think they would shop Mason Miller if they were just really bad this year. Like you mentioned, Laureano, a couple other guys that, yeah, you have a chance to restock a little bit, which we haven't done in a while. And it's been great to compete every year, but yeah, it would suck to just be mediocre again. That 23 team was just, man, they just had so many issues, and they were just so talented. This team is good. They're not as talented, so things aren't working out. Yeah, I think it can get ugly, and I'm going to mention Luis Arias not being in the lineup as part of it, but this is kind of like, this started in 24 with the Rice on the team. I mean, in 25 with the Rice on the team. I think 24 was that best case scenario, and this is the first time I was on your show before that season, and I was like, you have to figure out, like, all the freaking slumps at the team slumps at Petco Park. It's just like, at some point every year, it's like, it seems like we're never going to score a run again. It just seems like you're like, when are you, like, something has to happen. Nobody's hitting. And so that 24 team specifically, and it was Profar. I mean, Profar without the power, even that type of hitter that he just grinds out at bats. And you brought in a Rice, you had Donovan Solano, David Peralta, you know, Jackson Merrill was grinding out at bats. I think they had like 6 guys in that lineup who were just like relentless. Those are the kind of teams that you talk about. Like the opposing team is just like worn out because these guys, every at bat is just, you're not, like the 20 as compared to the 23 team, which could not get a clutch hit, their life depended on it. And there was some more swing and miss. And it was just like, you would hear them talking like, you got to move the line. Manny, you can tell, because Manny would say it all the time. And you're like, somebody's telling Manny without trying to tell him directly, like, you got to have better at bats. We just got to move the line. You got to not try to hit a grand slam every time up. You know what I mean? And it's like, I think Preller said it in an interview. I think it came out this season where he was basically said, I hate when you hear the Manny, Manny, Manny thing at the stadium, because we need this guy in the biggest moments to like chill out and like not try to do too much. And the Padres are kind of at their worst when he's trying to carry the team on his back. And so that 24 team, I thought, was very good at just like 1 through 9, man. They were going to wear you out. And Arias was part of that. Arias in that kind of lineup was like, yeah, he fit that. He was part of that machine. On his own. Yeah, it's like, I don't know, this guy's not very productive. And I think Eric Hosmer was similar to that as well, where he came over from, as a superstar guy, superstar contract, but he was a part of that Royals lineup that was kind of like that, just relentless. And then when you stuck him on a team that didn't have all those parts, didn't have all that balance, he was like, why do we give this guy so much money? And then when you saw him, like the 2020 team, parts of 21 and 22, he was pretty valuable just because he was a piece of that puzzle. And so we saw 24 to 25, the difference. You didn't have Profar in there. You didn't have, Solano and a few of those other guys. And Peralta, I don't know why they didn't sign David Peralta. Maybe he was asking for too much money, but
yeah. Our theory was he wanted to go fishing with Brandon Belt.
Right. On Brandon's boat.
But it was a similar situation where it was like, Brandon Belt's like, I just had a great year. I made all the money I need, but why would I come? Like, it's insulting if I'm going to come back for less than 10 million. I'll just retire. And Peralta
Yeah.
had probably had like, come on, this is one of my best. I mean, he was maybe for a 2-month period because Tatis missed a bunch. I think he missed 2.5 months. Peralta had like an 850 OPS over that time, and then it was like this is the kind of things that happen in a great season. Like you were able to replace a superstar with a veteran who just fit in perfectly. So I think he just had it in his head like, pay me at least $7 million, or I'm just gonna not play anymore.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
anyways, like that was missing last year. And whether Donovan Solano was going to continue to be that type of player, they didn't have it anymore. And there was like 4 or 5 pieces missing from that team, and you saw the difference. And so now we're another year removed from that, and I don't know if they've if it's any different than last year. I mean, you're hoping that Jackson Merrill is going to bounce back, and he can be a star. And he kind of like Fernando Tatis when he debuted. It was like it was so easy for him, and you're like, well, at some point he's going to struggle, and then we need to see how he bounces back from that. And it took a while, but yeah, he would go into these deep slumps, and then Jackson Merrill looked lost for a time last year. He was trying to get through a full season with multiple injuries, so I can see. We've seen good Padres lineups struggle at some point, and but that one team that didn't, that was really really solid throughout the whole season until that playoff series against the Dodgers when they all just went cold at the same time. That 2014 was just like seemed like the perfect fit for Petco Park. And so now you're counting on, guys like Miguel Andujar and Castellanos, and they're not those type of guys. I mean, I think you're hoping that a lot of these guys have good seasons, but yeah, I'm I'm certain that we're going to get to the point where it's going to be like, and it's going to be early in the season. Like, it seems like we're never going to get a run. nobody's hitting right now. So we can go player by player and say worst case scenario. But like we saw, like Xander Bogaerts, like Craig's worst case scenario is actually better than last year because he was he was like that for 3 months last year. You're talking about a month. I go, oh, that would be great, man, because he was like that for 3 months last year. Look at how Manny finished the season.
Well,
I mean, Manny finished the season. He was ice cold for like the last 2 months, like a WRC plus, like 85 or something like that.
Yeah.
And that stuff gets hit. And I think he has his cold streaks, but not early. If it's early in the season, yeah, then you're just like with Xander, then it's like, man, this guy's done. He's cooked. But the reality is, a lot of these guys are up and down. Cronenworth is up and down a lot, and he seems like the most consistent guy. But if you look at his month to month, he had some really good months and some really bad months last year. Gavin Sheets was up and down as well. Ramon Laureano is like, did he really break out at age 30? Is he going to be that same player again? We don't know. There's a lot of question marks there. So, and that's that's just on the hitting side. And then like I mentioned, the pitching, they who's going to be the Randy? Like right now, they're expecting Randy Vasquez to be one of their guys, and then if Musgrove or Pivetta or somebody gets hurt, who's going to step in and be what Vasquez was? Do we have that guy? And I think, yeah, there's a lot of options there. But
Jason, do you know which guys do get at the end of spring training before opening day? Can they opt out if they're asked to take a minor league assignment, or do they have to have a spot on another team in order to opt out?
So I think the guys with more than 6 years can opt out on like the 21st. So like Bueller, Ty France,
Right.
Marco Gonzalez, I think they can just.
Herman.
Yeah, well, no, Herman is he's on.
He has a
40
major
now,
league
so
deal.
he has a major league deal.
Oh
so he's
yeah,
not,
of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If Herman Marquez doesn't make the team, I mean, I don't think he's gonna have enough opportunity to just be like, this guy's terrible, he's done. I think it's gonna be like, you obviously are not quite there yet. Would you go to the minors for a bit, or just go? I mean, it's easy enough to put him on the IL with anything,
Right.
lower back is sore or something like that,
Broken
and just like
fingernail.
you're not.
Yeah.
And look, I think those are the main guys. I think it sounds like they really like Logan Gillespie, and they did a couple years ago when was he here? It was like they were using that guy like crazy, and it was like, he's actually pretty good. So you got guys like that who are going to give you some depth, but it can get ugly. I think it can get ugly if they're missing more than if you're missing two of the three big starters. And it sounds like, look, Musgrove has already acknowledged, he's like, yeah, I'm probably not going to give you 33 starts. So I think they're going to probably ease him in. It wouldn't surprise me if he started on the IL. You just can't afford to lose those type of guys in the middle of the season, especially at the end. You're hoping to be in the playoffs or at least in postseason contention in September. And without those guys, it's going to be really tough. So, aside from that, I feel pretty good about the bullpen. Mason Miller is I mentioned WBC. I'm like, just don't get hurt. Like, I kind of see every pitcher is like, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if any pitcher hurt their arm at any time, right? But the guy who throws 104 miles per hour, it's like, it's almost like if he can just do it, just like a guy who throws 92, it's the same effort maybe, but also I kind of feel like a human body, just because you can do it, it doesn't mean it's going to hold up. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like, and the way that I've always kind of figured this way. I think Joe Musgrove was the most open about, like, clear about what was happening in that season, where he was like, yeah, I knew the ligament was about to go, and I was just trying to get healthy enough at the end of the season where I can give him some innings. But and he came back and he was really good, but he knew his elbow was about to go, and it's almost the way they talk about it is like, yeah, you have this much mileage on your tires, but if you drive really fast and you drive over, in the mud, or you drive in the mountains, whatever you do that's not like super normal, it's not going to last as long. And it's like, okay, well, you're going to throw 104 miles per hour. If you're going to throw this cutter, this sweeper, it's going to put more stress on your arm. So I really love the bullpen, but yeah, that kind of stuff scares me. It's like, oh, and Mason Miller was a starter. If you guys remember, he came
Yes.
up, debuted. It's like, dang, the starting pitcher throws 101 miles per hour, shut him down with some elbow pain after I don't know how many starts, but it was in the offseason. You just figured those are the kind of guys that, yeah, he's going to get Tommy John. Came back, didn't get Tommy John, and they said he's going to be a reliever now, and it's worked out. But I've been saying about Robert Suarez for a couple of years. I've been waiting for Robert Suarez's elbow to give out. He missed half a season with an elbow injury, elbow soreness, came back, and then, like, all of a sudden he wasn't throwing a breaking ball anymore. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
I know what that's about. And then he was only throwing his fastball. He's held up, but also, like, there's a reason. The elbow pain was there, and then all of a sudden he came back and he probably said, "Don't throw that breaking ball anymore." And that he's good enough to get by without it, but yeah, that's for me as an injury concern.
Worst case scenarios from Jason R.R. Martinez.
Okay.
And as a reminder
Yes.
for folks, because I don't think we said up front, we will be giving our win totals at the end. That's why we're withholding them now.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
These are narrative time.
Correct.
Yeah.
Narrative time, and I can tell that Craig has been watching way too much industry. He's just picturing Tati and Manny on the sailboat, watching Craig Stammen jump over and just sailing ahead and not turning around.
No, you know what I imagine, Chris? I imagine Pujols caressing the back of Toddy's neck.
No,
You deserve everything.
Stop it! You stop
I
it
deserve
right now!
nothing.
You stop it right now, Gregory. Put it back. Put that back.
Oh, if you haven't watched Industry, you don't know. But if you know, you know. Okay.
I am not pessimistic about this team. So understanding that, here's how I set forth on the assignment. I wanted to find out where I think this team is worse. And you guys have already said a few names that are kind of key to that. Dylan Cease is not on the team. And for all his flaws, all his several flaws. Guy put up innings. He took the ball. He won some games. He had some decent outings. And as a result of being Major League Baseball's most durable pitcher for the past handful of years, he got 200-something million because that's really, really valuable. We don't get him anymore. The combined losses of our pitchers along with him are about, it would be about 4 wins, roughly, when you consider Kolek and Bergert are gone. If you add that Pivetta might have a substandard year, let's say he's half as productive as he was last year. That's another 1.9. And you wind up looking at around 5 games being lost because the pitching staff doesn't seem as good. You also lost Robert Suarez. I think David Morgan's going to do a really good job of filling in on that end. He's somebody that the league hasn't seen, and I think he's already had ACL surgery, so maybe he's a few more years from that blowing up. Regardless, this lineup is better. This is a better group of people. Last year, the bottom 5 of the Padres roster put up negative 2.6 wins. We're talking about the folks, all the names you guys remember. It was Martin Maldonado, Trenton Brooks, Jason Hayward, just black holes. And I think the team's depth this season is better. So I'm going to say they're going to lose half as many as a result of the bottom 5 and only about a loss there. Altogether, when you look at that, I think this team could be, with its reductions, about 8.5 losses worse. Oh no, that's not great, right? I'm not going to give you my number yet. But what I will say is if you think this team is bad with Xander Bogaerts on it, imagine a world where he is not available. Up the middle, this team is perilously thin. Jackson Merrill has really no true replacement. I mean, Bryce Johnson is behaving in spring like Bryce Johnson has performed during his entire career, a sub 650 guy. If Xander Bogaerts gets hurt, right now, his replacement is either Jake Cronenworth, and then you get into Sung Moon Song making his major league debut. But his actual on-the-chart replacement is Mason McCoy. If you're worried about Xander being bad, worry about Xander not playing a lot more.
That's a good point.
I can't factor that into what we all do, but I don't look at the 2025 team and see a lot of things better. Cease is a loss. The pitching stat, the rotational depth is absolutely concerning. Walker Buehler was a negative replacement value guy last year, but and Joe Musgrove might not start the season. Nick Pivetta might not start the season. Everybody might not start the season. That could happen. But when I look at this team, I see a little bit better of a team. And when I say my number, I think you'll see where I think it is. Raphie?
Okay. Well,
that was like the cheeriest worst case scenario I think I've ever heard. I actually think this team is better, but burr.
Everyone,
I'm the touching grass segment of this episode.
burn some sage, because this is.
No,
we're gonna need some cleansing.
No.
So my theory of the case. So I went back and listened to last year's Pessimism episode because I needed to remember how we do this and everything. And last year's Pessimism episode came right after the beginning of the 180 home run problem thing that I was all up on about last year. And I'm not going to repeat that. I'm going to amend that, which is that, Jason, you've come on the show and you've talked about how the sort of unique thing about the Padres that no other team has to deal with is Petco Park. Petco Park has just been this sort of anomaly, this cipher for a lot of its existence. And it continues to be an anomaly, a cipher. There's really no other baseball park like it. And even as it's reinvented itself and they've changed the dimensions, etc. And what I mean to say by that is that it's still incredibly hard to get a base hit. It's really hard to get an extra base hit in Petco Park. It's hard to hit a double, and it's exceedingly hard to hit a triple. The thing that's not as hard as it used to be anymore is hitting a home run in Petco Park. Rolling a park factor over the last 3 years is a park factor of 102 for home runs at Petco Park. And that is the difference between, like there was a great piece that I think Ben Clemens wrote a few weeks ago about the discrepancies in playoff odds and WAR projections, and why the Padres had the second most WAR projected in the National League West, but have the fourth highest win percentage or win total sort of projected. And a lot of what that was talking about was that, Oracle Park, for instance, in San Francisco, is just flat out hard to hit in period. And they stuffed that roster with ground ball pitchers. And so it's an actual nerf. And the Padres, on the other hand, have gone in this other direction where they've acquired guys like Nick Pivetta, like JP Sears, like German Marquez, who the theory of the case with them is, let's put a fly ball pitcher in a park that kills fly balls, and they will be successful. And we saw success with that last year with Nick Pivetta. But basically, this is my amendment to the 180 thing I was on last year, which is that essentially, like, we don't slug, and the teams that come to Petco Park, they slug. And I'll get that's if I were to boil it down as simply as possible. I'll now talk about the specifics of that. Ramon Laureano, he was very good last year. The previous 3 seasons wasn't that good. Like, he struck out a lot. He barely walked. And this is basically you can copy and paste this to Gavin Sheets. Do we believe he was the guy he was last year? Or do we believe he was the guy he was the previous 3 years of his career? Gavin Sheets was non-tendered by the fucking White Sox. And we're like, oh, like, this is our starting first baseman / DH now. And he had an absolutely good year last year. He feels very comfortable here. Holy Sheets, scenery change, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know if this will happen, but again, I'm still going on 3 years of evidence versus 1 for Laureano and for Sheets. Okay? I mean, like, I think the Xander Bogaerts stuff sort of writes itself. It's like the dude, if he just kind of continues on the trajectory he's been, continues to not hit for power, continues to miss the green monster in Boston and not reinvent himself to hit in Petco Park, fine. Jake Cronenworth continues to slide against lefties, and yet we still hit him against lefties every single day because we didn't build an effective platoon partner for him in that regard. Fernando Tatis Jr., it's really hard for me to come up with a pessimism case for Fernando that isn't based around injury, and I really try not to do that. But I would say he shows flashes of last year where he continues to hit the snot out of the ball directly into the ground and has that negative launch angle that he had for a good chunk of last year, doesn't hit home runs. And also, we should say the difference between Fernando last year and all of his prior seasons in baseball was that he had a walk rate of 13% last year. And every season before that, he didn't walk and he struck out a lot. And so, I'm just saying, all it takes is for him to stop walking again, and all of a sudden there's 20, 30, 40 points off of his on-base percentage, which are very valuable, especially given where he's going to be hitting in the lineup. Manny Machado, the aging curve begins. And it's not that he's hitting 26 or 27 home runs. He's hitting 21 or 22. And those are very valuable home runs. And the third baseman defense that we saw take a slide last year, it doesn't work. Right now, our DH platoon is some combination of Andujar, Castellanos, and Sungmoon Song.
Jose Miranda erasure.
Yes, I am erasing Jose Miranda. Thank you. Guilty as charged. But like Song, Andujar, and Castellanos, I can see all 3 of those just being a complete whiff. Andujar very clearly is meant to be a facing a lefties only sort of situation. I could see if he gets really hot and he's hitting really well against lefties, it's And Song and Castellanos are struggling. I said, well, let's try Andujar every day as our everyday designated hitter. And then he goes against righties and is completely exposed. And then that affects all parts of his game. So here's the thing with Castellanos. Castellanos is better friends with Manny Machado than Yuli Gurriel was. And the whole reason Yuli Gurriel was on the team last year is because he was friends with Manny Machado. So
He was fast, Raphie.
It's hard to believe.
So fast.
It's hard to believe that Yuli Gurriel only had 40 plate appearances last year with the Padres because it feels like it was 400. But let's say Nick Castellanos puts up Gurriel-esque numbers because he's washed because the Phillies said, hey, we'll pay you $20 million not to play for us. And instead of 40 plate appearances, he gets 100. And then you've been playing that guy the whole time because Manny's like, that's my boy. I'm down with it. While Manny's also floundering, like we say, because the aging curve is catching up to him. That's bad. Okay, final thing on the hitters. I mean, guys, what the fuck are we doing with this catching platoon? Like Freddie Fermin and Nick and Luis Campusano. Like Freddie Fermin could be a solid bat. He could also hit the Mendoza line very easily and put up Austin Hedges like offense with, middling to average defense. And Luis Campusano, who didn't get a hit last year in Major League Baseball, currently has an OPS of like 467 in Peoria while getting to play all the time. And playing against a lot of the pitchers that he probably played against in the PCL last year, and he succeeded. So that's not good. Okay, that's hitters. Pitchers, the bullpen was unbelievable last year, but they were also unbelievable because they stranded 77.3% of base runners, which led the league, which is, a stat that can be controlled, but is, tied to a little bit of randomness, the runners left on base. And also they had a 264 BABIP, which was also the lowest in the league. Again, something that I think is influenced by their skill, but it's not hard to see that, if they go from first in the league in BABIP and left on base to 10th as a unit, that's still a good bullpen. But that makes a difference. They go to 15th. That makes a difference. So I'm not even saying that they're going to give up more homers, that they're going to, stop striking out guys at the rate they are. I'm just saying that these little tiny intangibles. Randy Vasquez, lest we forget, had a 3.84 ERA last year against a 5.37 expected earned run average. And he had the year he did because he became Strandy, and that's why we loved him. But if he's just who he was last year, again, you run it back, that's a horrible outcome for the Padres.
Shape of his life, Raphie.
Have you seen
Pessimism episode?
Hot Job of the Hut? That's what that's what Randy is now.
Yeah. Herman Marquez is going to pitch a lot of innings for this team. I think that in and of itself is just a pessimism thing. He has a major league contract. He's the projected, according to Jason, he is the projected fifth starter for this team. So I just think that's pessimism. It's very easy to see Kyle Hart having to pitch meaningful innings as a starter for this team from some combination of injury or anything else. Here's the last thing I'll say about the pitchers. Walker Buehler doesn't make the team, opts out, takes the knowledge and fix that he learned from Ruben Niebla and succeeds. Where else? For the Dodgers.
Oh, I was going to think the Giants or something. The Dodgers have no room in the inn for.
This is the worst case scenario. I'm saying
that's fair.
Him leaving and going to the Giants is quite likely. I'm saying this is be horrible.
Andrew Friedman meets him outside the gate at Petco Park with his blue glove.
Yeah.
He's like, did you get what you needed?
And
then, did you get what you came for? He's like, I got it, boss. I got it all.
Exactly. 2 wild cards for me to close it out. 1, Craig Stammen, the journeyman reliever, does not morph into Bob Melvin and leaving pitchers out there too long on the mound as a starter. No. He believes in his bullpen. He, in fact, turns into Jace Tingler 2.0 and rides the 4 horsemen or Fab Five or whatever way too hard in the beginning of the season, especially when Joe Musgrove is coming back from injury and Michael King is coming back from injury and what Nick Pivetta might be, whatever. And then we turn into like a 2021 situation where the bullpen's gassed, the starters are have attrition, and now we're signing Jake Arrieta and Vince Velasquez to come and pitch for the team because he's turned to Tingler 2.0. And here's the last thing that I just this is just would just be chef's kiss in a pessimism sense.
Mm-hmm.
So I started with Ethan Salas plays in the major leagues this year as a pessimism case. And I was gonna stop right there, but I'm gonna take it a step further. Ethan Salas plays this year in the major leagues. Padres are out of it. It's a desperation move. Oh, let's bring this prospect up and give him a cup of coffee and whatever. And then something happens. And then Ethan Salas is really good. He's actually the guy that everyone thought he would be. And he succeeds so well, in fact, that in the offseason, AJ Preller trades him for a 3-starter with 2 years of control. And finally, the prophecy of the prospect credit card finally coming due is foretold. And that last guy from the original crop of the 2021 to 2024 prospects that Preller was collecting is gone, and the Padres are bad with a losing season and completely devoid of anything close to something you'd call a prospect.
Good times.
There's my pessimism case.
Okay, so there was 4 awful narratives that no Padre fan who subscribes to this show would enjoy watching and didn't enjoy listening to. So let's make it just short and sweet and brutal. We're going to now, this is the low bar again. And I think a couple, 3 years ago, we were all guilty of setting our bars too narrowly and not allowing for the actual variance of a baseball season.
That was 2023.
Right.
That was when it was the most disappointing team in the team's history.
True. So, and we didn't come close to approximating where that was. Like the worst case scenario actually occurred on the field and we didn't catch it. Did we overcorrect the next 2 years? I don't know, but I'm going to say if my worst case scenario comes to pass because of the star talent that remains on the team that isn't going to go anywhere, 74 and 88. 74 wins, 88 losses would be the low watermark for me, with a bad starting rotation where the main starters are injured almost the whole year, a good bullpen that gets overworked, and a lineup that turns out to be less than it was anticipated to be and winds up being almost as holy as some of the other lineups we've had. 74 is my number. Jason, your number, please.
Okay, worst case scenario. And worst case scenario is that they're hovering around 500 at the trade deadline and only a few games out of the wild card, so they don't trade anybody. Things start slowly falling apart towards the end of the season. Maybe there was something about Bob Melvin and Schilt being so stubborn that maybe that kind of willed them to play through the entire season. That's why they were so successful. Like maybe a rookie manager like Stammen can't stop that. When things start falling apart, it just gets worse and worse. So I'm thinking, even though they were good enough to not trade their trade chips at the deadline, things are going to fall apart in September, and I'm going to say they lose 90 games.
72 and 90 is the record for Jason. Chris.
Fangraphs projects this to be a 79 win team right now on their projected standing.
We all know that place isn't worth the paper it's printed on. So
it's definitely worth your patronage and support. I laid out a case for 8.5 losses right off the bat in my pessimistic outcome. Craig Stammen. I firmly believe major league managers do not win or lose more than 1 or 2 games a season, with the exception of maybe 4 or 5 guys, the absolute best in any given year. And whatever it's the Kool-Aid, they get on the right frequency with their team, or they're just damn great Hall of Fame managers, like Tito. Like, I think there's only a handful of guys like that every year, and then the rest of the time, it's a game or two. So let's call that another game and a half of Craig Stammen's growing pain. That puts them at 10 wins less than last year, or 80. However, last year did not go as they wanted it to go. Merrill was hurt half the year. Cronenworth was hurt. Bogarts was hurt. Tatis was hurt. Manny didn't have a great year. He played substandard defense for parts of it. It didn't go as we wanted it to go. I don't think that's built into the club. I think that was a bad dice roll last year. I think this year's going to get a better dice roll out of those guys. I really do. And as a result, I think my pessimistic outlook on this team is the same thing as you guys laid out. They're in it at the deadline. They don't trade, but that's because they're hovering around 500. The National League West is a tough place to be. Every year someone rises from out of nowhere. Last year was kind of us. Not out of nowhere, but it could be the Giants. The Giants have had 107 win seasons. It could be the Diamondbacks. They went to the friggin' World Series. My worst case is they win 82 games total in the season, do nothing at the trade deadline, and we watch guys like Adrian walk away. We watch guys like Ramon not have great seasons but walk away. All the guys on contracts leave. And the Padres' new owner doesn't have the money to re-up in free agency.
I thought somebody would bring ownership. I thought somebody would bring ownership into their narrative at some point. Chris waited until the very end and then drops it in that your worst case number is still a winning season, 82 wins. But one that ends with an owner that's unwilling to spend. All right, Raphie,
and worse chances in 2027 as a result.
Sure.
I loved all the logic cases that have been laid out so far. My number really has to go and be influenced by a few things. One, you have to imagine that if the Padres are descendants, then the Diamondbacks and the Giants are ascendant, and that we would be losing a good deal of games to them. You also have to imagine that, as the Padres have been wont to do throughout their existence, they would lose an unacceptable number of games to the Rockies. But even in my most pessimistic scenarios, I cannot imagine the Padres actually finishing below the Rockies in the standings. No. So I'm kind of thinking, like, what do I think the Rockies could realistically finish at in a good season that would also that the Padres would finish like one game ahead of that or something like that. Right now, the Rockies are projected for about 64 wins, according to Fangraphs playoff odds. I think in like a, incredibly error bar, like let's put 9 win error bars against around that. So they would get up to 73 in that case. So I guess that would mean that the Padres would finish with 74. I'm gonna go 73. I'm gonna go 73 wins in the scenario I laid out, where the Padres get absolutely mashed at home. Their relievers are nothing. They're signing your Vince Velasquez and Jake Arrietas of the world. They have absolutely no bench depth, and catcher is a black hole yet again. All these guys revert back to themselves. 73 wins and horrible vibes.
In review, we have 72 from Jason, 73 from Raphie, 74 from Craig. 82 from Chris.
I'm not
being
pessimistic about this
Always
team.
look on the bright side of life.
I'm a comedy writer, not a soap opera guy. I'm not Mickey Koki. Not even I'm a sketch writer. I'm short comedy, short bursts of enjoyment.
Oh, well, there it is, the pessimism episode. But remember, this is us trying to come up with the absolute worst case scenario for the San Diego Padres. That way it won't hurt us. There. You can't hurt us anymore. We've already felt all the pain. But next week, get ready to get hurt, because we're going to open up our hearts to the possibilities of everything going absolutely right for the San Diego Padres. The optimism episode is next week. On the way out, Jason, what would you like to promote?
Roster resource. That's what I do. That's what I do for a living. I pay attention really, really closely to baseball stuff, and I do it because I enjoy it, but also it's because it's my job now. So I do it even more than I normally would before I got paid for it. And what I do with that knowledge is I use it to put these rosters in some kind of form to show you what is the state of this particular team at this very second, because that does change very often. So when you go to Fangraphs, there's a drop down that says roster resource. That is my life's work there. 17 years now since I launched MLB depth charts, and now it is roster resource. It's part of Fangraphs. I've been doing this a lot longer than my previous career as a membership and fitness director at the YMCA, which was almost 10 years, doing that. And so now, as an adult after college, and now I go, well, I've been doing this way longer than that one. So, yeah, I get to do baseball stuff, and feel free to go and read it and ask me questions if you're confused about anything there.
Jason, are you going to be at Petco much this summer?
Yeah, I'll probably get in about 40 games between between pitch clock and stringer, which is the entering the play-by-play into Gamecasts. So I'll be there. Yeah, and that's probably enough. 40 games, so I'm get to be at about half of them. Yeah, pretty good deal.
I'd say that's plenty.
Yeah.
Because baseball is stupid and no one should watch. Those are the abiding words of this podcast. Well, Jason, thank you so much, as always, for your time. Thank you for patronizing the show. We really do appreciate it, and the kind words. We use your stuff all the time, so we're glad you listen to our stuff. That's at least a small way that we can pay you back, other than our direct subscriptions to Fangraphs trickling down. And all the best, man. Go Padres, right?
Yeah, I'm not a very pessimistic person. I am actually optimistic, especially in the off season. Although I did like being part of this segment, because it's easy to look at every team and go, what's the worst case scenario? What's the best case scenario? But I think I mentioned this on maybe on one of the other times I was on the show. I was like, I was optimistic about the '94 Padres with like Archie Cianfrocco and Dave Staten and those guys. So like, that's kind of crazy, but yeah, this is the time to be optimistic. You don't know what's going to happen. Crazy stuff happens in baseball, man. So, I enjoy this time of the year, and I'll be frustrated just like everybody else during the season. But yeah, let's be optimistic now.
All right. Well, seeing as we've finished the show, fine. We can be optimistic now, but we couldn't before, because this has been the Pessimism episode. The Optimism episode is next week. Until then, for Jason, Chris, Raphie, I'm Craig. Go Padres.